In my last video, we looked at zero, first, and second conditional structures in English. So if you want to understand or review English conditional structures, then I'll leave a link for you to watch that. And I do suggest you watch it first, but then come back, because in this video, we'll be looking at third conditionals. What are they? When do we need them? And importantly, how do we pronounce them? And there's a little quiz for you at the end, so stay with me until then. Okay? Are you ready? If you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and invite the bell to be notified every time I upload a new video on learning and using English in real life situations. Remember the bell, because if you don't invite it to notify you, then you won't be notified. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Tanya Meyer, and I'm an English as a foreign language teacher to adults, specializing in mindfulness practices to enhance and improve English language acquisition and use. Right, third conditionals. In my previous video, I spoke about what conditionals are. Basically, they're grammatical structures that we use to talk about conditions and the results of those conditions in the past, present, future, or hypothetical situations. The third conditional is used to talk about past conditions. And so because the past has already transpired, then the third conditional is always unreal. In other words, we use them to speculate about how things would have been different if the conditions had been different also. But we know that we cannot change the conditions in the past. But even then, it's very common for us to refer to the past and to the conditions of the past and how things might or could have been different if those conditions had been different also. Now, many times third conditional is taught to language learners to express regret. So, for example, if the conditions had been different, then I would have done this, or I would have done that, or I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done that. Yes, I'm expressing regret at what I did or didn't do. But it isn't the only way we can use the third conditional. We can also use it to talk about neutral or even positive events. Why don't we take a look? Here's a typical situation. I intended to wake up early, but I forgot to set my alarm. Okay? So I can say, if I'd set my alarm, I would have woken up early. If I'd set my alarm, but I didn't. I didn't set my alarm, and so I didn't wake up early. Right? The form is if plus had plus the past participle of the verb. If I'd set. Set is an irregular verb, and it's the same in present, past, and past participle. Set, set, set. If I'd set my alarm, I would have woken up early. So we can say if plus past perfect had set, and then in the result clause, we need would plus have plus the past participle form of the verb. Now, here's the thing with English structures. In the affirmative, at least, grammar structures are unstressed. And that means that we don't really hear them. So what happens is that English learners don't really distinguish that what we're doing is we're saying would have woken, because it gets compressed or reduced to its weak form, which is would have woken. From would have woken to would have woken. So we're going to practice with that. From if I had set my alarm to if I'd set my alarm. If I'd set my alarm, I'd set. The had is being contracted there. I would have woken up early. I would have woken up early. Not if I had set, I would have woken. If I'd set my alarm, I would have woken up early. Can you try it? Here's another possibility as a result of that same situation. I wouldn't have been late to the meeting if I'd set the alarm. If I'd remembered to set my alarm, I wouldn't have been late to the meeting. Wouldn't have been late. Wouldn't have been. Wouldn't have been. Of been. Don't have been. Wouldn't have been. Wouldn't have been late for the meeting. So the situation is unreal because I was late for the meeting. And I was late for the meeting because I didn't set my alarm. I forgot. But if I hadn't forgotten to set it, then the imagined result is that I wouldn't have been late for the meeting. In other words, that I would have been there on time. But the fact is that I was late for the meeting. So this is a typical way in which third conditional is being used to express regret. Oh, I forgot to set my alarm, so I was late for the meeting. If I'd set my alarm, I wouldn't have been late. Wouldn't have been late. So can you think of a situation recently that you regret? Write your third conditional below in the comments. What was the situation and what is the unreal result? Right, I've just said that we use third conditionals to express regret, but not only that. We can also express neutral or situations that we're happy about. One cold and rainy day about 5 years ago, my dog and I went out for a walk. And as we were walking along, suddenly, out of the blue, a little kitten jumped out in front of us and started meowing her little heart out. Now remember, this was a cold, rainy day, and this kitten was tiny. It had big eyes, ears, and a tail. It was about a month and a half old. And it was obviously cold, hungry, wet, and in distress. So I looked for the mother or for other kittens around the area, but I couldn't find anything. So I had no option but to pick the little kitten up and bring it home. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have made it. It would be likely to die of starvation or cold. So that was 5 years ago. And look at her today. Just as Sashi, the dog, but for different reasons, Rumi is a most wonderful companion. Okay, so that's the situation. What third conditional sentences can I create? Well, I can say, if Sashi and I hadn't gone out for a walk that day, we wouldn't have come across Rumi. I don't regret having gone out for a walk. On the contrary, I'm happy I did. Rumi might not have survived. Now I'm using might. This is what I speculate. If I hadn't rescued her that day. Rumi might not have survived if I hadn't rescued her that day. But I'm very glad that she did survive and that she's with us today. We can use different modals in third conditionals. So we can say that this or that would have or wouldn't have happened, but we can also say that this or that could have or might not have happened. With third conditionals, we can use would or wouldn't. This would have happened or this wouldn't have happened. Or, because we're talking about the past, this might have happened, or this might not have happened, this could have happened, this should have happened, this shouldn't have happened. Yes, so we can use modals to substitute would depending on what we're saying. Might have happened to express possibility, might not have happened to express negative possibility. For example, as I just said, Rumi might not have survived had I not rescued her. If I hadn't rescued Rumi, she might not have survived. To summarize, we can say that third conditionals are used to talk about past conditions that did not happen. So they are always unreal. because past conditions and results have already taken place and we cannot change them. Okay, so as promised, here's a little quiz. Please answer true or false. Okay, here we go. If I'd known it was your birthday, I would have brought a gift. I knew it was your birthday. No, that's false. I did not know it was your birthday. If I'd known it was your birthday. If I'd known means I didn't know. I brought a gift. If I'd known it was your birthday, I would have brought a gift. I brought a gift is also false because I didn't know it was your birthday. I didn't bring a gift because I didn't know it was your birthday. Okay, let's try another one. If my flight to London hadn't been delayed, I would have had enough time to catch my connecting flight to Bordeaux. My flight to London was delayed. I was able to catch my connecting flight to Bordeaux. Yes, it's true that my flight to London was delayed because the sentence is, if my flight to London hadn't been delayed, but it was. And no, it's false. I was not able to catch my connecting flight to Bordeaux. I was not able to catch my connecting flight to Bordeaux because the original flight to London was delayed. Okay, last one. The event would have taken place outdoors if it hadn't been raining. The event took place outdoors. It was raining. It's false that the event took place outdoors. It took place indoors because the sentence says that it would have taken place outdoors if it hadn't been raining, but it was raining, so that is true, which means that the event did not take place outdoors. It took place indoors because it was raining. Right, so I hope that was helpful for you and that you understand all about third conditionals now and that you create your own. I'm looking forward to reading your third conditionals in the comments below. Remember, it's also writing practice for you. And if you're ready to really make progress with your English by incorporating it into your everyday life, then you need to download my free guide, How to Revolutionize Your English, 8 Steps for Success. I'll leave a link for you to do that down in the description box. And by doing so, you'll be joining my mailing list, which means that you'll receive a weekly email from me in English about learning English. So it's a win-win. But don't worry, you can always unsubscribe. And this guide is really going to be helpful for you to think about different ways in which you can incorporate English, as I say, in addition to watching films and series on Netflix. This is what most people say to me when I ask them, how do you learn English outside the classroom? But actually, there are many other things you can do that are probably even more effective than watching films and series on Netflix, because what we want is this illusion that if we relax and we switch our brain off, we're going to learn. And that just isn't the case. But I'll tell you what, waking up and switching our brain on can be so wonderful. It really can. It can be so enjoyable to be paying attention, to be concentrated and focused on something that we know is helpful, it's interesting, it's fascinating. So this is what we need if we really want to learn and be able to use the English that we're exposing ourselves to. So we need to be there. How can we learn something if we're not there? Download the guide is all I'm saying. And remember to invite the bell to be notified when I upload a new video. We're going to be looking at mixed conditionals next. So I'll see you then. Bye for now.
In my last video, we looked at 0, first, and second conditionals. So if you want to understand or review conditional structures,
Not couldn't have happened, because couldn't have happened
means something else. So I'm thinking that we've got to create another video. Okay.
So with third conditionals, we can say that we can say